Hello everyone, again, we are here for consisting of myself, Min Sung Kim, Gyuri Kim, Min Han Lee, Hyejun Moon, Hyejun Ko, and then Jin Choi. Today, after the wonderful session from the permanent mission of South Korea to the United Nations, we're going to give out a presentation about the things that we learned from the session. To start off our presentation, I'm going to go over the overall structure of our presentation. To start off, we're going to explain the 3 pillars of the UN, and then we're going to move on to the goal of the permanent mission, and then we have history of the mission. And then finally, we have 2 things that the permanent mission is focusing on: sustainable development goals, and then political issues.
Okay, to start off, I'm going to briefly talk about the history of the permanent mission of South Korea to the United Nations. So the mission was founded in 1948 in Washington, D.C., and then later in 1991, Korea officially became a part of the UN. And in 1999, the mission moved into the building that we visited earlier, located in New York City. And in 1963 and 2013, Korea was a non-permanent member of the Security Council, and later became a part of the General Assembly in 2001. 2007, Ban Ki-moon became the Secretary General of the UN, and Korea, being a country that experienced war in the past, now contributes to peacekeeping, regional conflict, and human rights.
Let's move on to the introduction of 3 pillars of the Republic of Korea permanent mission to the UN. Famine, disease, and discrimination. There are still many problems in the world that we must give hands. The United Nations always pay attention in these issues, especially in peace and security, development, and human rights. Let's take a look at peace and security first. International peace and security is one of the UN's main 3 major missions. The Republic of Korea has been committed to promoting international peace by actively participating in the peace and security activities of the UN. Although it was only a short period of 26 years since Korea joined the UN in 1991, it has already accepted an appointment of non-permanent members of the Security Council twice since 1996 to 1997 and 2013 to 14. And also they have been contributing to the UN peacekeeping operations. Another important issue at the UN is development for people's better life. As the UN changed the method of development from MDGs to SDGs in 2016, UN has set 17 international common goals regarding economy, society, and environment to solve the universal and global problems of mankind. UN's ultimate development goal is no one is left behind, and to achieve this goal, our Korea mission mainly focused on SDG 4, equality, education, 10, reduce inequality, 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. I believe this effort can help worldwide nations to consider balanced development, considering other values. Last but not least, human rights. Since the UN Declaration of Human Rights was adopted as international law in 1976, it provides the basis for a number of human rights treaties. As a member of commitment on the elimination of racial discrimination and the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women, we have contributed international society by writing a resolution corresponding with the stance of UN on human rights. Of course, our 3 elements are important to consider. Personally, I think the most critical thing that Korean permanent mission to the UN should consider is peace and security. If there's no peace, no development and human rights. As we are a nation in which has a title of a sole divided nation, consistent interest and negotiation with North Korea will lead to peace. Just like what Ojun ambassador mentioned, for South Korea, the people in North Korea are not just anybody's.
So moving on, I'm going to be talking about the Sustainable Development Goals that Korea is currently focusing the most on. So out of the 17 SDGs, the 3 SDGs that Korea is focusing on is SDG 4, SDG 10, and SDG 16. So first off, I'm going to be talking about SDG 4, which is quality education. So according to researchers in 2015, there is approximately 617 million children and adolescents that are not meeting the minimum standards of basic education, like simple arithmetic or just reading. But on the other hand, Korea is usually in the top ranks in most aspects of education, except for one, which is transformative education. And transformative education is the process of learning that forms one's characteristic. And the main example of transformative education is global citizenship education. So the idea of being a global citizen is having mutual understanding of and respect of our differences. But there is, however, some opinions that are opposing to this idea because, like I mentioned before, the world is lacking basic education at the moment. So the opinions are that promoting such educations right now isn't really something to prioritize. But Korea being the country that has really high ranks in education, they're making efforts like collaborating with UNESCO to promote such educations.
The second SDG that the permanent mission is focusing on is SDG 10, which is inequality, reduce inequalities within and among states. Regarding inequality, Deputy Ambassador Park introduced the fact that South Korea is the 8th most intense inequality in the most recent OECD reports. He has explained that the government's effort to tackle inequality by raising the minimum wage in South Korea. To tackle inequality, the permanent mission participated in SDG 10 Group of Friends Assembly, explaining the impact of the development of public education's quality and accessibility in reducing inequalities. Moreover, during South Korea's presidency of ECOSOC, the permanent mission hosted the ECOSOC Special Assembly dealing specifically with the topic of inequality, which is a symbolic event that led to other efforts to work in this SDG, and it was the first time to hold an assembly regarding inequality. Last but not least, SDG 16, Peace, Justice, and Strong Institutions. At the 21st anniversary of the Rome Statute of the ICC, which South Korea co-hosted, the mission made it clear that it has contributed to tackle impunity and emphasize the enhancement of universality, especially in Asia-Pacific region. Moreover, as a member state of the Bureau of ICC ASP, South Korea has made efforts to just achieve SDG 16 through the development of international criminal justice regime. Moreover, at the General Assembly of the UN, celebrating 1 year of the adoption of the SDGs, the mission asked for a multi-stakeholder partnership where everyone participates, works, and shares benefits together, arguing that it is essential for policy development and for voices of the marginalized to be heard, which matches with the core spirit of SDGs, which is leaving no one behind. Now, we are going to move on to the issues that the permanent mission is focusing on. The first issue that the permanent mission is focusing on is international peace and security. To begin with, Ambassador Cho chaired Peacebuilding Commission's organizational committee, playing an important role in post-conflict peace-building efforts. The permanent mission also focuses on disarmament and non-proliferation. As the 2013 and 14 chair of the committee that monitors and facilitates the 1540 resolution, South Korea has played a central role in implementing the resolution by strengthening export control and wisely making responsive measures to the possibility of weapons of mass destruction by non-state actors. Finally, as the Korean government has co-hosted the annual ROK and UN Conference on Disarmament and Non-Proliferation, the government has opened the space for in-depth and contemporary discussion on the topic of global disarmament and non-proliferation, which is essential for peace to keep development going.
The non-proliferation of nuclear weapons is a goal that the Republic of Korea and the whole world must constantly strive for. Especially the Republic of Korea is under the danger of DPRK, a nuclear weapon possessing country. These are the three aspects that the permanent mission of Republic of Korea must achieve in order to encourage nuclear disarmament. To start with, support in building a safe environment. hedgehogs, when they're feeling threatened, they tend to pull out their spines. This acts as the same reason behind the North Korea's possession of the nuclear weapons. They feel as if they need these nuclear weapons to protect themselves and represent themselves to the world. Ambassador Park Chu said that the permanent mission of Korea places importance in helping or assisting North Korea in increasing their national security. If their national security is increased, this may provide incentive for North Korea to abandon their nuclear weapons. The Republic of Korea is eager to join in with other countries in contributing ideas to build a safe environment all around the globe. These are the treaties that the Republic of Korea is committed to. And in these treaties, many of these treaties are really, the Republic of Korea plays a significant role in several of these treaties. For example, the Republic of Korea became the president for the 2019 CTBT conference, and also in 2018, the Republic of Korea held the IPNDV meeting in Seoul. This example shows that the Republic of Korea really plays a significant role in the area of nuclear disarmament. And another aspect that the Ambassador Park Chu emphasized was that the Republic of Korea will continue to assist the DPRK. He believes that assisting the DPRK and allowing them to stand on their own will really provide an incentive for them to abandon their weapons. The Republic of Korea has been helping and is going to help the North Korea by Kaesong Industrial Region and sending aids. However, this Kaesong Industrial Region came to an end when the Republic of Korea discovered that the North Korea has been using the money earned in developing more nuclear weapons. So I believe there must be more regulations to prohibit the DPRK from abusing the help that the Republic of Korea is sending for the nuclear disarmament. Now we're gonna move on to the climate and development.
Now let's talk about development and climate change. Most people think that the UN deals only with peace and security, but they also cover actions about development activity and actions involved to prevent crisis and controversial issues. The United Nations brought up a decisive standard called MDGs and plans until 2015. However, now that the period has ended, the United Nations had brought up an approach with a new scheme called the SDGs. And this is the Millennium Agenda, which targeted 193 countries to pursue the goals. Korea has actively participated in discussions on key agenda items such as rule of law, good government, education, rural development, women and the disabled, contributing to the establishment of results and documents and achieving both economic development and democracy. Due to countless developments, there were remarkable triumphs, but at the same time, there were a lot of miserable results. These diverse kind of disasters caused a lot of natural disasters from different places around the Earth. Climate change is an identifiable change and primarily global warming that has an extended rate. These grave phenomenons are caused mostly because of greenhouse effects. Prominent impacts are shown due to climate change, such as rising sea levels, loss of land ice, ocean acidification, alteration of the hydrologic cycle, and the Korean government has implemented the emission trading system since 2015 and submitted the Natural Contribution Plan with the goal of voluntary reduction of greenhouse gases. And this has actually succeeded of reducing 37% of the greenhouse gases, which was very successful. In addition, it has actively contributed to the international community's effort to cope with climate change by hosting to the Secretariat of the Green Climate Fund in Songdo, Incheon in 2012. And these contributed funds to support developing countries in response to climate change are having a very positive aspect. Despite the fact that development has fostered the development and facilities and institutions of developing countries, it is controversial because it is quite unfair to not all the regions of the world. It's controversial because it prevails and fastens climate change in terms of development, which is the intersection point of development and climate change. Earth's temperatures keep on rising, and therefore collision of countries stances are still taking place. And regardless of the country, all of the countries have the responsibility to pursue environmental development. However, developing countries still need this chance to fully utilize their resources to create new infrastructures and in order to develop their GDPs and develop the economic stance of their countries. However, the UN is trying to deal with this kind of contradictory crisis by implementing new green technology. And for instance, Germany has created this new millennium technology, which is very green and very eco-friendly, and it is very efficient, and this is really way more superior than the other natural resources that we are using right now. The German green environmental technology is a technology which has a huge market value, and I said before, it's very efficient. This technology is for green environments, and at the same time, it brings industrial revolution for developing countries. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we must promote we must promote green environmental status for our society and for the better good for all nations and all people around the world. Oh, and next up, we're going to talk about humanitarian assistance.
Okay, first of all, I'm sorry about my voice. It's not very good right now. But anyway, let's take a look at humanitarian assistance. There are 4 principles to guide the work of humanitarian actors: humanity, impartiality, independence, and neutrality. Those are based on international humanitarian law, and actually, humanitarian assistance is based on human rights. One of the most important pillars of SDGs, and we already mentioned about it. And okay, let's look at it more from Korean side. Honestly, in the past, Korean government's humanitarian operations were focused only on emergency relief, which is very short term. But now our government is expanding its assistance to chronic crisis and forgotten disasters. This is a long-term solution about this problem. And yeah, in our global society, there's so many people who suffered from disasters or national conflicts between other countries. And in this situation, protecting people's lives and basic human rights who are in danger in such as this kind of problem is the most important goal and is an ultimate goal of every actions that permanent missions of Republic of Korea showed us. To achieve the goal, our government and the UN mission have been working steadily. For example, in 2030, when Ebola virus is a very big problem, we operated Korean Disaster Relief Team, which is called KDRT, and in 2050, we upgraded relief organization to Nepal for earthquake response, and in 2017, we sent the humanitarian aid about $19 million. Can you believe $19 million is very huge? And anyway, to areas facing humanitarian crisis such as Iran, Syria, and Yemen. And finally, this year, permanent mission of Korea to the UN contributed about $5 million through CERF. Okay, let's sum up our team's presentation. Through a session with the permanent mission of South Korea to the UN, we recognize that the permanent mission is working so hard to not only make South Korea better, but also make the world better. Thank you to the permanent mission for making this happening, and thank you guys for listening to our team's presentation.
If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask those questions.
As the ambassador himself mentioned quite a few times, the issue of child soldier and their integration or reintegration to the society is a hot topic or a hot issue right now in terms of SDGs and UN, right? And I also saw the news that the permanent mission of South Korea to the United Nations actually opened a side event with the UNICEF to talk about the reintegration and the empowerment of the former child soldiers, right? So can you, as you have studied about permanent mission of South Korea and their activities regarding UN programs, can you explain what kind of efforts or activities is the permanent mission of South Korea putting in order to solve or support the problem of former child soldiers and their empowerment and their protection?
First of all, thank you so much for asking that question. The ambassador to us didn't specifically mention child soldiers, and except you asking questions about that. But I'm sure that the permanent mission of South Korea is working so hard to just make that happen, reintegration of child soldier, as the permanent mission of South Korea is a huge supporter of human rights and humanitarian issues. And I strongly believe that the permanent mission is working so hard and will do a lot of work to make it happen.
Thank you.
Is there any other question? Okay, we will end our presentation and thank you so much.